Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. Let me take a drink for a second on this very, very warm day. I was just outside rewatering the flowers because it is that hot today. I mean, it is unbelievable. I watered them this morning because my wife's been away, and so I have to do the watering of the garden. And she told me to water it again today because it was that hot, and it is unbelievable out there today. I mean, I played golf this morning and played early on purpose. Teed off at 8 a.m. and it was, by the time we finished, it was 93 degrees at about 11 a.m. That's how hot it was, and I don't know what it finally went to today. I don't know if it hit 100 in New York or not, but sometimes they fudge that a little bit, but and it depends where you are. But it is really steamy weather. And I just want to mention that we have obviously the NBA draft and an interesting draft. Some years the draft is kind of boring, and I understand there is no drama to the first pick. There usually isn't anyway. I mean, we've known since before the year started that Cooper Flagg was going to be the first pick, and rightly so. But to me, where his Duke mates go is the key to this whole draft. Because I always have a player that I really like. And, this year, one of those players wound up with the Giants, obviously, with Scottaboo, who I've heard very good things about so far. But Con Knipple is so understated physically in how good he really is. And he will fit like to me, he fits San Antonio like a glove. That's exactly what they need. And I think the team that passes on him is going to really regret it. They're really going to regret it. But he's going to be better on the right team because he will be able to fill he'll fill the voids that those teams have. You need a shooter, he's the shooter. You need a guy to do certain things, he's the guy to do certain things. So he might not be the wondrous, and he's a very understated and underrated physical talent. He might not be as explosive as a couple of kids at the top of the draft. But give me the basketball player. If you haven't seen that yet, if you haven't grasped that yet, just look at what Pritchard provides for Boston. Look what McConnell provided in these playoffs. It isn't about it's not a beauty contest. It isn't about finding the guy who jumps the highest or runs the fastest in basketball. It's the guy that plays the game right and fits your squad right. It's about chemistry. I mean, if you had to get a lesson in that, you got one in the finals. Do you watch what McConnell did in that series? If we were listing and lining up players based on physical attributes, if we started in New York, he'd be somewhere, basically in Utah. Doesn't matter. Look what he did. And there was a point where we were actually having a discussion that if his third quarter, now we knew it wouldn't, but if his third quarter splurge had continued, I told you going in that I thought that he was going to have a pretty big night, and that I told you that I thought Oklahoma City was going to win easily. And I think they would have Halliburton or no Halliburton. What happened to Halliburton was heartbreaking. Don't ever want to see an athlete get hurt. But I don't think they would have won the game if Halliburton had played. That's just my opinion, okay? I don't think it would have made any difference. But if you watched what he brought to the game, we were having a debate when he came in the third quarter and scored like all those points in a row. And he actually kept them from being down 30 because he was the only one who scored for like 9 minutes. He scored like 10 straight points or 12 straight points. Yeah, and, they couldn't score, Indiana. We were saying, what if he goes on a tear here and finishes with, 28 points and they win the game by 1? Would you give a backup point guard the MVP? Could you imagine in the finals giving a backup point guard the MVP? It is something that would never be duplicated in the next, 9 million years. That's how crazy it would be. But we were actually having that discussion. All right, so the draft is coming up. Let's start with baseball because talk about melting. It's funny, and Harrison was telling me that I was getting, that this was being discussed. Last week, to just tell you a little story, I met Dog in the City to do a voiceover for a movie. The movie was called Caught Stealing. It's a movie about a baseball player who's involved in some criminal stuff, and he's in hot water. Dog and I recreated Mike and the Mad Dog circa New York City, 1998. Mets coming down the stretch, battling the Cubs. Braves have already run and hid, battling the Cubs for the wild card and the Giants, the whole thing. Okay, so Mets collapsed that year. Okay. So after we did that, Harrison came with me we went to a sound studio, Dog and I met there, and we did this, did our Mike and the Mad Dog stuff for the movie, which is coming out, I believe, at Christmas time. It's called Caught Stealing. So Harrison said, Dad, on the way back to the train, because I took the train in that morning, way back to Penn Station, stop at Barstool with me because Harrison works at Barstool. So I said, okay. So I went into Barstool just to say hello to the guys and everything with Harrison. And Frank the Tank came in. And I was teasing him. I said, Frank, how are you getting on these days? The Mets the Mets have been on a great roll. And I said, here's the deal, Frank. You can't go crazy on the Mets. And I always compare Frank the Tank to a guy that we had on our shows. If you go back to the Mike and the Mad Dog days, Jerome in the Bronx. You remember Jerome? Now, Jerome didn't make a career in broadcasting like Frank has done. Frank has a very viable career now in the business. He's making bucks. He's out making appearances. He's become like a little bit of a rock star. So Jerome was just a caller, but people couldn't wait for Jerome to just singe the radio with his calls about how the Yankees would never win again and how much and I had coaches. I'm telling you, Jeff Van Gundy said to me, if I'm in the car and Jerome calls, I am not moving. I am not moving. He said, you couldn't get me to do anything else I don't care if he's on for a half hour. So people loved when Jerome would go ballistic. And to me, Frank is the modern day Jerome. If Jerome was around now, somebody probably give him a podcast. I mean, that's just the way life is. Okay. So, and Portnoy was smart enough to give Frank a vehicle to yell and scream and people love him. They get a kick out of him. They play his stuff other places. Fans love him because in his craziness, sometimes are some good points about the team because he follows the team passionately and he's not a dumb sports guy. So I said to Frank, Frank, listen, you got, this is got to be a tough time for you. You can't get on the Mets until they lose 3 in a row. Look what they've done. Look at their record. They're the best record in baseball the day I was in there. They have to lose 3. Well, since that day that I said that to him, the Mets are 1-9. So Frank has been able to go absolutely crazy, and everything has gone wrong. First of all, they've played their nemesis. They had to go to Atlanta, and now then they're back again. They get beat by the. See, if the Mets see the Braves and a pressure game and hot weather, they melt like wax on your car would today. Okay, that's just the way the Mets have been for 30 years. Atlanta knows. I don't care if Atlanta comes in 100 games under 500 and the Mets are 80 games over 500. Atlanta has a psychological edge on the Mets because it's like ingrained in them that they're going to beat the Mets. It has been forever. And right now they're doing it again. But right now they're in better position as a team than the Mets are. The Mets have real serious issues. They've lived on their pitching all year. Their pitching had been unbelievable. It had performed over its head all year. Then they have key guys go down. They can't get guys back. They're going to try Montas, who's been bad, trying to get back. Senga, the guy's terrific, but he's so brittle, it's ridiculous. I mean, you talk about the Grom, Senga never pitches. But the Mets, let's be honest, to call their lineup top heavy would be one of the jokes of all time. You have at the top of the lineup Lindor, major star. Nimmo, really good, solid offensive player. Alonso, okay, premier slugger. And Soto, who has warmed up with the weather and in his last 15 games is 17 for, I think, 52 for 327 with 6 homers and is slugging over 700. Okay, so he's warmed up. The one thing about Soto, though, is he has not had that moment. Could have come last night. He has not hit what we call late and close. He has been abysmal. And that's his game. Late and close is the Soto trademark. He has been abominable with runners in scoring position. He has been hideous late and close. And they need that. Now, he's warmed up, and he really has got a groove of hitting home runs. You know, Mike Piazza used to just wear out that path to right center field and right field. Soto is doing the same thing going left. I mean, he's going to hit a ton of opposite field homers in that ballpark. He said backspin on the ball, boom, and it just keeps flying and flying, especially with the heat. He's going to hit a ton of homers there. And listen, he got off to a terrible start. And already, I believe he leads the major league in walks, which is no surprise. And, you know, all of a sudden, you know, before you know it, he's going to have 20 home runs. But the rest of the lineup is a disaster. Disaster. Vientro's hurt. Beatty hit some homers, but his last 15 games he's hit like 140. Taylor catches everything. He's a great outfielder, but the guy does nothing offensively. You don't have that bottom of the lineup magic that the Mets had last year. You know, they go crazy about Torrance. Yeah, Torrance he's a nice catcher. He's a really good backup catcher. But you know what? He's not going to give you anything offensively. The bottom, you know, why they're playing young, nobody can figure out. Guy's hitting 140. The bottom of their lineup is incredibly anemic. I mean, they can't produce runs, and now the pitching has caved. And pitching is a chain reaction. You get injuries to your starting rotation. Then you get a couple of bad turns out of your rotation. Now they're out of the games early. The bullpen is getting abused. You're a part of the bullpen other than your closer who can't get work because you're not, you know, you're bringing them now into games where you're behind or you're even because you're never leading. And Diaz is still, listen, he's not perfect, but he is overpowering most of the time. But all of a sudden, the starters, injuries, the starters, bad turns in the rotation, the bullpen, abused. All of a sudden, you're springing leaks everywhere. Can't get out of your own way. Can't get a lead. So now your big four are pressing at the top of the lineup because they're trying to make something happen. And every time they turn around, they're down 4-0, 3-0, 5-0, 4-1. And they're trying to hit 5-run home runs. And all of a sudden, the Mets, who had played so methodically good early in the season, especially at home, where they had started to build a little swagger in their building. Now they can't get out of their own way. And of course, who is in the middle of it? The Atlanta Braves, who they have now let out of the box. I told you last week, or about 10 days ago, before this part of the schedule started, the Mets are going to get a chance to put the Braves away. Instead, they have opened the door and allowed them to just come storming through. And now the Braves, all of a sudden, they're thinking, wait a second. Hey, we're back. All of a sudden, Olson's raking. All of a sudden, Acuna's back at the top of the lineup. One thing, though, don't anybody call Acuna the best player in baseball when Aaron Judge is on the planet. I mean, let's be real. Okay? As long as Judge is here. Okay? How are you going to call? And I understand that he is off to a wonderful start. I understand that he's hitting 400, but Judge is the guy until further notice. I mean, let's get real, okay? Until anybody, anywhere puts up the numbers that Judge puts up, which nobody other than Ohtani can even approach, don't even go there. It's sacrilegious to go there. But he is one hell of a talent. Now, did I need to see him look like he wanted to fly away when he hit a home run? No. But hey, that's baseball these days. These guys spend more time gesturing as they go around the bases. Go look at the way somebody from the 50s ran around the bases when they hit a home run. And look at these guys now as they go around the bases and they're steering this and they got all kinds of hand gestures and they got signals and they're waving and they're doing a dance as they get to third base. I mean, you need the Rockettes alongside them. It's a show. It's dinner and a show. It really is. But the Braves, all of a sudden, limped in, and were about to get just knocked completely out of the campaign. They were about to be completely destroyed. And all of a sudden, here they are. And listen, they're not there yet. They're 36-41. But a couple of more days of this, and they're going to be knocking right on the Mets' door. I mean, they were you couldn't find them with a telescope. Now they still have a lot of work to do, but they're not dead. And they're not going to come out of this week dead no matter what now. So the idea of putting them away, but what's happened is the Mets have just unraveled in every way. And they need something to give them a jolt. They need somebody to step up and give them a great pitching performance. Do I think it's going to come tonight? No, I don't. Okay, I don't. Is there anybody who's capable of doing that and giving them that kind of performance? Holmes could give him a good 6 innings. And now and he'll go tomorrow. And now you're worried about when is he going to hit a wall? How many innings can I throw him? Blah, 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 blah. So right now, it's like the Mets are trying to juggle 4 or 5 balls and keep them all in the air at the same time. Nothing is working. Lineup, dead at the bottom. Situational hitting, disastrous. Bullpen, leaking everywhere. starting pitching. All of a sudden, got to use extra guys, got to start other guys. Now, what am I going to get out of this guy? What am I going to get out of this guy? What about this guy? And all of a sudden, other than Peterson and Holmes, who I think has been okay. Okay, he hasn't been great, but he's been okay. He was really good early, but lately he's been okay. You can't count on anything right now. And right now, Atlanta's putting a better ball club on the field every night. And if the Mets don't get it from Lindor and Nimmo and Alonso and Soto, they're not getting it. They're not getting it. And let's be honest, things that they expected at certain positions have come apart at the seams. So it's back. Here we are in late June, and it's back to the drawing board a little bit for the Mets. Now, are they in desperate straits? No. Not as far as the season goes. Do they have to make moves? Absolutely. Let's be honest. They need a professional bat to anchor either that or they need Vanches to come back and be him what he was last year. Now, they gave him a couple extra days, I gather, because they didn't like the way he looked. We know he's not going to field, but I don't care if he DHs. I don't care if he becomes the DH, but you got to get some of this dead wood out of that lineup. And if it means going to get an experienced bat, go get one. That's not hard. Getting good pitching anytime is hard. Getting an experienced bat is not that hard. They need an experienced bat. They need a bat who's going to help anchor that team and give them reliable, a good guy they could put in a 5-hole would be really nice on that team, who could collect RBIs, get some big hits, take a little pressure off the guys at the top. Listen, Lindor's going to do his job. Nimmo's going to do his job. Soto is going to do his job, and eventually you're going to get some big hits out of him. You haven't gotten that one that rocks the stadium yet. You're going to get it. He has come to life. Anyone can see that. He's just not all the way back yet. See, if he had finished last night with another big hit after the home run, I would have told you today he was all the way back. But he didn't. But he has looked infinitely more like himself in the last 3 weeks or so. You have seen that he's starting to look like Juan Soto again. He even made a nice catch in the first inning last night. But what the Mets had put together, which was probably a little surprising early in the season, how efficient it was, especially from the pitching standpoint, it has really unraveled now. I don't think things are going. I think the Mets need to. I don't think they're going to turn around and win 5 in a row. I think if the Mets can win 5 of the next 10, that would be okay. They need to stop the bleeding now. I don't think they're in a position right now, the way everything is set up, what they're missing in the pitching department, what's going on in the bullpen, what's going on in the lineup. I don't think they're going to run off a streak now. But if they can just stabilize things and not have a horrendous 4th of July weekend with the Yankees. Remember, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the Yankees are at Citi Field. 8 o'clock on a holiday afternoon. And I believe day games both days on Saturday and Sunday. It's not an ESPN game. I think it's a Sunday 1 o'clock game, if I remember right. But they're in for 3 games. Now, as far as the Yankees go, they're playing in a soft part of their schedule, and they haven't played well. They didn't play well against the Angels. They go into Cincinnati last night and lose. Cincinnati's improved. They have some good young players. They have one outstanding player, and they have a brilliant manager, which you know how partial I am to him. So it's one of the reasons I picked Cincinnati over this year. I made 3 wagers on the overs on the totals this year. I bet Cincinnati over 79.5. I bet the Giants over 79.5. And I don't remember ever betting the San Francisco Giants before in my life. And I bet the Yankees under 94.5. I thought that was too high. And then actually, before the season started, that came all the way down to like 89.5. I could have middled it, but I didn't. Probably would have been a wise move because it looks like they'll get more than 89. But I didn't do that. I left it at under 94.5. As far as the Yankees, Mets have much bigger problems, but the Yankees are not without their problems. The biggest thing with the Yankees is, one, other than their really outstanding players, Judge, a certain left-handed pitcher who's having a great season, how good are they? You trust the back of the bullpen? You trust the rest of the rotation? I mean, they're getting performances from guys now in that rotation. I mean, look what Schmidt's done. He's got 25 straight scoreless innings. And let me just an aside, any clown, anybody, anywhere who thinks he should have pitched the 8th and 9th innings really should not only keep that to themselves, they shouldn't even be allowed to watch baseball the rest of the year. Are you out of your mind? First of all, I can guarantee there was no way he was going to pitch in the hitter. Secondly, he's thrown 103 pitches. He has no chance under any circumstances. He's 40-1 to finish that game. He's never finishing that game. Ever. He's got a no-hitter going to the 8th. They know he's got 103 pitches. You think they're swinging at the first pitch? I mean, come on. You could have lost him for the season in that game. Do you know how many times guys have gone for individual achievements on the mound only to suffer injuries from them? And here's a guy who's had a problem, who is developing into something maybe pretty good. He's in the midst of 25 scoreless innings, and you're worried about whether he's going to throw a no-hitter or not when he's already got 103 pitches after 7 innings. Come on. How clueless can you be? How that was a debate I have no idea. It wouldn't even be a good debate if he had 103 pitches going to the 9th inning. At him going to the 8th inning, it made no sense. I don't want him throwing 120 pitches, which he would have thrown if he had to pitch 1 inning. If he was pitching 2 innings, he's going to throw 140. You want him throwing 140 pitches? Are you out of your mind? I mean, some comments are just ridiculous. That one's off the charts. Off the charts. Now, he's pretty good. And I'll tell you something. I know Warren's spotty, but he's got good stuff. I see something there that you want to work with. I mean, that night against the Angels, he gave up 3 runs. He got unlucky. Chisholm could have played a ball that cost him 2 runs. LeMahieu could have played a ball that cost him another run. He struck out 11 guys. He had wicked stuff. I see something that's pretty good. Yankees have a lot of live arms. The Yankees always got live arms coming out of the bullpen, if you notice. Always. Now, the problem with the Yankees is who do you trust? Who do you trust? Grisham's my guy. I wanted him to play last year. But am I trying to tell anybody that this guy's a 30 home run player, even though he is made for Yankee Stadium? See, there are Yankee Stadium players through the years. And what would make you a Yankee Stadium player? Well, number one, if you can patrol a big center field with grace and efficiency like he does, that's number one. Number two, when you can groove fly balls into the lower deck and right, you are made for Yankee Stadium. So I put Grisham in that group. Now, I hope you understand you have to be left-handed to be in that group. But I'm talking about Roger Maris. I'm talking about the quintessential Yankee swinger, Bobby Mercer, Jim Spencer, Oscar Gamble. If you remember, if you're a Yankee fan who even knows who Oscar Gamble is, Oscar Gamble had a grooved Yankee Stadium. He was deadly in Yankee Stadium. So was a little Tiger second baseman who I always wanted the Yankees to get their hands on, named Dick McAuliffe. Now, if you know Dick McAuliffe, you're not young, but if you remember Dick McAuliffe, he used to kill the Yankees. And because he could hit 355, 60-foot fly balls to right field. Another guy was a guy who was known as the Yankee killer, named Kurt Blefary. Always wanted to be a Yankee. Killed the Yankees. Killed them. But you go back through the years, the Yankee swingers who just loved to hit the ball. Grandy was that way a little bit too. Granderson was another one. Hit a lot of home runs at Yankee Stadium. But Grisham's he doesn't even look. Made contact. Goodbye. That's gone. I know it. I don't even have to look. It's 8 rows deep. It's 10 rows deep. It's 6 rows deep. It's 4 rows deep. But how many of those are he going to hit? Have we got the best of Goldschmidt in the first half? Do you believe in Rice? I don't. I admit it. I don't yet. I'm surprised by what he's done. He hits the ball very hard when he hits it. When he hits it really hard. Now, I don't expect to get a lot out of Stanton in the regular season, but you got to keep Stanton around for the postseason because he is a stone killer. You dust him off in the postseason, and whatever you get out of him, I don't care if he hits 8 home runs in the regular season. I don't care if he plays 40 games in the regular season. You dust him off in October, and you wind him up, and you let him go. That's who he is. But the Yankees are still playing with guys they don't know whether they're going to do it or not do it in a big spot. They also are playing with guys that they're not sure about at certain positions in terms of their defense, in terms of their overall ability. And there's a lot of question marks. And you can tell they're just still pensive about this stuff. Now, if they get healed back, that'll be a big plus. If they figure out the back of the bullpen or get some consistency out of the back of that bullpen, and I'm talking about not just one guy, I'm talking about both guys, that will be a big plus. The Yankees have a team that could easily get back to the World Series. Now, whether or not they could beat a Dodger team once the Dodgers get their pitching ducks in a row, that I don't know. Can they get Ohtani and Freddie Freeman, especially, and Betts out in big spots? I don't know. And the rest of them, too. Smith and Muncy, and go down the list, Teoscar. I mean, that team is so loaded, it's ridiculous. They're not as good as that team. Not even close. Nobody is, though. But I think the team that will be there as the roadblock will be the Tigers. and could give them a heck of a fight. You see, the Yanks, I have a lot of question marks. Are they going to be in the playoffs? Absolutely. Are they going to win the division? Most likely. It'd be a huge disappointment if they didn't. But are they automatically a World Series team? I can't say that. I have a lot of question marks about a lot of players and also who they decide to go down the stretch with. You can't go down the stretch with all of them. You can go through the regular season and roll them in and roll them out. But then when the games get big in October, you got to put the team out there. And that'll be interesting to see exactly who that is. We brought a couple of pros in, and I think that has helped. I think Goldsmith's a real pro. I think Bellinger's a real pro. And they've done a good job in that regard. But I don't think they're great. But their problems are minuscule right now compared to the Met problems, which are a little bigger than the Mets probably counted on. And I think the Mets need to dig in and deal with them right now. I don't think they can wait a month to deal with their problems. Now, as I mentioned, we'll be on after the first round. And like I said, to me, what will fascinate me about this draft will be where the other two Dukies go. I think Knipple is going to be a huge factor for the team that drafts him, if the right team drafts him. And I think the big guy who has really moved up the chart could go a lot higher in the draft than people think. He's a 7-footer. He's a legitimate 7-footer. He's got a huge wingspan. He's a very special kid. He's going to get better and better. He's just the tip of the iceberg now. He's going to be a very good basketball player. There's talented guys in this draft. I'm not saying there's not. The Rutgers guys, Harper barely worries me. Harper doesn't. But if I'm, say, San Antonio, I don't want Harper for San Antonio. I don't think he's a better athlete, but he's not the fit. He's not the right guy. You got to take the right guy. But we'll get into that after the first round. We'll go through who did what and who did what right. The Celtics, it looks like, are going to take this time to rebuild, which is a smart move if they do it. Very smart move. Rather than wait to see how Tatum comes back in the future and see if they can put a championship team together, I think if they break it down and start over, that'd be a smarter move. And I think Indiana, with that team, can be very formidable with very minor tweaks next year, even without Halliburton. That team's got a lot of depth and some serious weapons. But we'll get to that. And before you know what? Football is going to be, hey, it's a hot June day. Before you know it, training camps will be open. Football's right. Hey, you can almost sense it. I always tell you that when I go to Saratoga, when I drive back from Saratoga, and I might go back for a day here and a day there, but when I finish my time where I spend days there or a good amount of time there, and I head down, that's when I think it's football season. It's usually around the 10th of August or something like that. And that's when I think, okay, it's football season. Not till then. But that's when I think it's football season. And there's still a month before the game start. But, there you can start to concentrate on everything that's going on. We'll see you later.